The very strange, very curious meeting at a state lodge that many Kenyans did not even know existed is very instructive. And indeed, to those who understand politics deeply, very puzzling. President William Samoei Ruto yesterday had a long fireside chat. Yes, you heard me right. Now, the Kakamega State Lodge is not a state lodge known to many Kenyans. And I'm hoping Kakamega people will not take this personally. But in my opinion, maintaining a state lodge in Kakamega is a wastage of public funds. Why? Because Kisumu is a mere 20 minutes from Kakamega. And there is a substantial residence for the President of Kenya in Kisumu City. So does it make sense to have a state lodge just a mere 15-20 minutes away? Another one with their own staff, expending valuable public funds, even at this time when we're in difficulties financially? Doesn't make sense to me. But that is not the only point that is terribly disturbing about all this. For anybody who observes politics beyond the surface, it is a bizarre meeting to have. Because where are we as a country now? Shouldn't the President of the Republic of Kenya be busy bringing Kenyans together instead of having meetings with specific communities? And at this meeting, Ruto was talking about working together with leaders from across the political divide, which is okay, which is as it should be. However, working together implies financial resources. And so, in other words, we are talking about how to spend money. My friends, fellow Kenyans, should that be the priority right now? How to spend money? New ways of spending money? By cooperating with certain communities? By having closer cooperation and working more with certain communities than before? And at that fireside chat, Kakamega Governor, His Excellency Bwana Barasa, promised to work closely with Ruto. Now, just before I came in to record this video, I was talking to Kakamega voters. And I did what every good journalist should do. Yeah, I pretended I have no idea what is happening. And so this is how I put my question. Aren't you happy as Kakamega voters that now money is coming to Kakamega? Close cooperation with State House is coming to Kakamega. Aren't you very happy? This has never happened since independence. They cut me short. They did not allow me to finish. Wacha tu hapo. Huyu Barasa kwisha maneno. That's what they were telling me. And I remembered that during the 2022 campaigns for the gubernatorial seat in Kakamega, the people discovered that Malala had some links with Ruto. What did they do when they went to vote? I believe their voting patterns showed Malala exactly what they thought about this link, let alone cooperation at the time. Now the truth is that Ruto has been working very hard in Kakamega, even in the run-up to the 2022 general elections. Lakini watu wa Kakamega kichwa ngumu. Indeed, in retrospect, we can assume the two counties, Kakamega and Mombasa, proved problematic to Wafula Chebukati and William Ruto's calculations on rigging that election. Because you'll remember, those two county elections for governor were postponed. Those two counties did not vote for their governors at the same time the rest of us voted for our governors. And those who study the rigging of elections, especially in the country called Kenya, will tell you that one possible reason is that it would have messed up the rigged arithmetic. For instance, maybe people would start asking, how come so many people voted for this presidential candidate and then voted for another gubernatorial candidate supporting the other presidential candidate? And so, to avoid such embarrassing questions, you postpone the gubernatorial election. And then these anomalies are more difficult to detect when we are talking about parliamentary seats, which tend to be very messy, especially in an area like Kakamega. So many different political parties, so many different political interests competing for dominance or victory. And I'm sure you know, although Kakamega County may be a small county, it has a huge voting block. Wananchi Kakamega ni wengi. There is another rather obvious reason for this Kakamega fireside chat. And let me put it like this. If you can't address the public peacefully, and people are saying you don't have support anywhere in the country, or rather in very few parts of the country do you still have support, then you call leaders. And then in the press statement, in the State House report that comes out after that, you reveal that you have support even from the governor of a very populous county. And therefore, by extension, you have a lot of support in Kakamega. I'm sure you catch my drift. But I'm also sure you remember the response of some Kakamega voters I spoke to shortly before I made this video. Bottom line, it is all a mirage. But then in politics, a mirage, something that does not exist, but people think exists, or you want to make people think exists, is important because of something called perception. Over time you want to create this perception that actually you still have support. What? And meanwhile, you're also diverting attention from matters that should really concern every single Kenyan. For example, Kalonzo Musyoka recently made a trip to Sudan, and he has come back with a bombshell. Apparently, the Kenyan Embassy in Khartoum was raided, ransacked. People drove away with the ambassador's vehicle. You know the vehicle that flies the Kenyan flag? That one. They drove away with it. And the ambassador himself had to run for dear life. Indeed, according to Kalonzo Musyoka, the Kenyan ambassador to Sudan had to escape in a tuk-tuk. My apologies for laughing. This is very serious. And he escaped to the Ethiopian border. Unfortunately, was safe. But he even lost all his phones. Now, common sense tells you that when something like that happens, which is a contravention of every known diplomatic international law, the Vienna Convention, etc., etc., I mean, you can't just enter the embassy of any country. Even if that country is hostile to yourself, you can't just raid it. International law forbids it. But common sense tells us that the thing to do here as a government is to tell the people what has happened in Sudan. But then the government keeps quiet. The Foreign Affairs docket is silent when something major like this has happened. And then shortly after that, the man leading the rebels who raided the Kenyan Embassy arrives in Nairobi and speaks to the president. Hey, what's going on here? Do we really have a country left? You tell me, what is your opinion? Do we really have any country called Kenya left standing? Do we? Or perhaps we are running the country called Kenya like a kiosk, kibanda. Hey, this is totally unacceptable. But then the government doesn't want you to have all that information. In fact, if Kalonzo Musyoka had not traveled to the Sudan and come back with that disturbing report, we may never have known. Yeah. Instead, the government is busy with fireside chats. Kenyans are suffering. The economy is just going down, bottomless pit. The Kenya shilling is on a free fall, and nobody has any idea where the bottom is. Yeah. But meanwhile, you are busy with fireside chats in Kakamega. And I believe I have proved that politically, what happened in Kakamega has close to zero impact. Yeah, because the people on the ground are still firmly in Azimio. And even those who were not in Azimio before are firmly against the government of Finance Bill 2023 that has taken away the incomes of people, continues to take away the incomes of people, makes life unbearable in Kenya. Even those who supported UDA before, I can assure you, are no longer with UDA. And therefore, all the noise about the Kakamega chat, karibu na kuni ambaye ilikuwa imewashwa moto, has zero political impact. Waste of taxpayers' money. What's left of it? You know, in Kenya today, there are many things which are unpredictable. We don't know what's going to happen. We fear for the worst, but the truth is, we don't really know what is going to happen. However, it is very clear that the Kenyan economy, kwisha maneno. It is very clear that going forward, we're going to have huge financial challenges. Indeed, we're also going to have serious food shortages. And this is why I want to take this opportunity once again to appeal to Kenyans to seriously consider setting up vertical sack farming. I mean, this thing needs very little space in your backyard. Even if it is a rented neighborhood, grow your own vegetables, grow a little food. I firmly believe that one day you will find that this is a huge advantage, and that day may be closer than any of us think. Now I'm aware that most of us look down on farming. Ni kazi chafu. It is the work of those people who have no other options. They have not gone to school. They cannot get a job. They cannot do a good business. And therefore the only thing is to till the soil. After all, those of our relatives who are still in shags are there because they have no other option. Hao ni watu hawajielewi. Very unfortunately, that is our view on farming. And yet those of you who have visited Britain will already know that some of the wealthiest people in that country have been farmers. Well, I'm not naive. Yeah. Najua napigia mbuzi gitaa. It is very difficult to change the mindset of people. And this is why I'm highly recommending my package, How to Survive or Even Prosper in a dead economy. It'll give you many other things you can do when everything has come crashing down, yeah, so that you preserve yourself and in some instances greatly prosper. Because history very clearly tells us the greatest fortunes are made during depressions, when things are very, very, very bad financially. History clearly tells us that. Do your own research to confirm if you don't believe me. Now you can see details on your screens right now on how to get hold of this very, very valuable, game-changing information. And of course, as always, I highly recommend it. In fact, this is so close to my heart that I've made the decision, out of every order I receive for this package, I will give one other one for free to less fortunate Kenyans, so that they can get these ideas, get these skills to survive what is coming. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank those few who have come out to sponsor other Kenyans. For every one Kenyan any of you sponsor, I will sponsor two, because I'm very determined that this information should get out and help Kenyans. Because what is coming, I'm not a prophet of doom, but I believe even many of you can already see it. What is coming is not good. It needs people to change their mindset. It needs people to change their thinking in order to survive. Now, a man called Kshs Malala, I like to call him Kshs, Shackles of Doom Malala, because he once wrote a very popular play, yeah, which was even banned because it was too truthful. Yeah, in Kenya we ban things which are very truthful. We don't like the truth in Kenya. Kunaendanga hivyo. This man is now the Secretary General of UDA. And of course he was very much present at the Kakamega celebration. Yeah, fireside celebration. I believe that's the most accurate way to describe it. Because I found it super fascinating that although people are drinking tea, some of the participants, if you looked at their eyes, it was obvious that they were drinking something stronger, or they had already drunk something stronger than tea. And I'm not talking about coffee. In my opinion, Kshs Malala's brief political career is over, because the UDA ship, the Kenya Kwanza ship, is sinking. Even if you're yet to notice, the Titanic was sinking for a long time, and yet very many people on that ship did not notice until it was too late. And when this ship goes down, it will be difficult for people to forget that Malala was close to the captain of that ship. He was one of the people steering that ship that went down. And as I mentioned earlier, Kakamega voters ni kichwa ngumu. Amongst the Luhya nation, they are the most difficult to manipulate. And it is so sad that Kshs Malala wrote a play where he later ended up being the villain of his own play when he joined politics. It is so very sad. It is yet another illustration of how many Kenyans have a lot of good ideas, know what is right for the country and what is wrong. But when they get elected, they change, and the priority becomes them and themselves and their families. It ends up being a money-making operation, yeah, instead of representing the long-suffering people who braved the morning chill, who braved the sun in long queues to vote for you. Now even spiritually, that means mambo yako kwisha maneno. Why? Because these poverty-stricken voters who voted for you are crying every day. And as they shed their tears of frustrations, they are mentioning your name. Do you think all will be well with you? Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.